units, green light for federal operations.
Move, secure all exits.
10 seconds to lockdown.
Target floor breach, converge on executive level.
Breach on my mark.
Execute. Federal fortress.
The gloves are officially off between President Trump and the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. What started as disagreements over interest rates has exploded into a full-blown war involving DOJ criminal investigations, grand jury subpoenas, and accusations of the most expensive renovation in American history. Powell released a desperate 2-minute video response that reveals exactly how rattled the establishment has become. See, this is not just another political spat. This is about who controls America's economic future. Your mortgage rates, your savings account, your retirement fund, all of it hangs in the balance while Powell refuses to cut rates that are crushing working families. Trump called him out for spending billions on a simple building renovation while keeping interest rates artificially high, and now suddenly the DOJ is launching criminal investigations. Of course, the timing is perfect. Powell claims this is about accountability, but Trump supporters see this as a deep state retaliation. The president promises rates will plummet once he replaces Powell. That's money back in your pocket. But first, the establishment is going to fight dirty. Speaking of America's economic security, there's a crucial development that you need to know about. Some breaking news here. On January 5th, 2026, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. This is not just government spending, it's a declaration of intent. America needs uranium. It needs domestic uranium, and it needs it right now. The U.S. currently imports over 95% of its uranium, making us dangerously dependent on foreign nations, including Russia and China. That's a national security nightmare. While Powell fiddles with interest rates, smart Americans are positioning themselves in the uranium sector through atomic minerals. They're not just another mining company. They're America First patriots securing our energy independence. And with Trump back in office, pushing nuclear energy expansion and domestic production, uranium demand is about to explode. Atomic minerals gives you direct exposure to this critical strategic resource. You need to see their briefing that they have prepared just for you to learn how you can profit while strengthening America's energy security. Because while the Fed plays games, real patriots invest in American strength. We thank them for supporting this show. But here's what Powell doesn't want you to know. Trump handpicked his own Fed chair replacement and is already promising immediate rate cuts. Powell's desperate video response proves he knows his days are numbered. The criminal investigation into his testimony about that multi-billion-dollar renovation project isn't going away. When Trump said he could have done that job for $25 million instead of billions, that's your tax dollars being wasted while your mortgage payment stays sky high. So, yes, 2 weeks ago, Trump accused him of wasting funds, which this guy says didn't happen because rates were up. And Powell responds with a video saying Trump is trying to pressure him into cutting rates regardless of what's good.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed.
Okay, just turn yourself in, dude. All right. This sets up the background tension. Now let's hear Trump's actual words. Trump talking about the Fed chairman.
We have a bad Fed chairman. He's bad in a lot of different ways, but he's bad because his interest rates were too high. And today we had a great inflation report. And today we had a really great growth report. So we have great growth and low inflation. And we're doing very well.
Do you think there's going to be a rate cut, though? With the inflation?
I don't know. With this guy, you don't know. He's got some problems. But what he also did He's renovating a small building. It's the most expensive construction job in history, and it's only a renovation. I could have done that job for $25 million. They're spending billions and billions of dollars. He either doesn't know what he's doing, or it's worse than that. And you know what I mean by what. So hopefully he'll be out of there soon.
Yeah, hopefully he will. Trump's personal attacks are escalating. Watch how he turns the threats into Powell's job security. Trump interest rates will plummet as soon as I replace Powell. Markets brace for potential policy shakeups. From threats to promises, Trump is now making concrete commitments about replacing Powell entirely. The U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Powell just refused to cut interest rates, rebuking Trump. Trump's Governor Mirren and Waller dissent. I can't wait for Powell to be out as Fed chair. The replacement will be a million times better.
Will keep those rates steady. That's exactly what we expected, despite the president calling for interest rate cuts. And as you were talking about, how are the markets responding? The S&P 500 hitting an all-time high this morning. Now it looks like right now it seems to be retreating. The Fed cut interest rates, as you know, 3 times last year. The Fed is keeping the federal funds rate in the current range of 3.5% to 3.75%.
Now we're moving on to the Fed firing back, refusing Trump's pressure, open defiance of the president's demands. President Trump was talking about credit card companies, too.
What happens if the credit card companies don't comply by the January date?
Well, then they're in violation of the law.
Did you have congressional
Very
support?
severe things. No, I want a cap on credit card interest rates because, you know, some of them are 28, almost 30%. And that, people don't know they're paying 30%. The people out there, you know, they're working and they have no idea that they're paying 30%. No way. We're putting a 1-year cap at 10%, and that's it. They know it. They've really abused the public. The credit card companies have totally abused it. I'm not going to let it happen.
President Trump cares about your financial security. There's no question about that. He's not just targeting the Fed. He's targeting, he's expanding his interest rate war to private companies as well. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the U.S. economy is doing well despite geopolitical tensions.
Geopolitical risk for us is, a lot of it is around energy, oil. And so far we haven't, you know, for all the turmoil, oil prices have come down, as you know, and so we don't really see much. You know, longer than that, it's trade, and, you know, the trade, the economy, our economy has pulled through pretty well, you'd have to say, given the very significant changes in trade policy.
While Trump demands rate cuts, Powell is publicly saying the economy is fine. He says the Fed should not be controlled by elected officials. But,
man. The point of independence is not to protect policymakers or anything like that. It just is that every advanced economy democracy in the world has come around to this common practice. It's just an institutional arrangement that has served the people well, and that is to have a separation between to not have direct elected official control over the setting of monetary policy.
But no, what happened before the Federal Reserve? What happened? How did we set monetary policy? That's what the Treasury is for. So you got it backwards. This is Powell's Declaration of Independence. He's drawing a line in the sand against political control. U.S. Attorney Pirro, she's weighing in too.
Started the investigation in November. On December 19th, we sent a letter, an email, and we said we'd like to talk to people at the Federal Reserve. Give us a call. No response for 10 days. December 29th. Please give us a call. We'd like to talk to you. We'd like to speak to you. No response for 10 days. We want to meet them the first week of January. No response. So then we did what any normal prosecutor would do, and we issued legal process. I'm not saying that. He's saying that. So does the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell respond to that? No. What he does is he issues a video. He claims that he's being threatened with a criminal indictment, threatened that the independence of the Fed is under attack, which couldn't be further from the truth. Now, normally what people do is they pick up the phone, they call you, they say, yeah, let's talk about it. But if they had responded, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And he's using this language about the independence of the Federal Reserve as some kind of ability for them to ignore any kind of legal oversight or legal scrutiny, or that would require us not to investigate potential lying before Congress. That's not how we work. No one is above the law. And so what we've got now is a case that, you know, the chairman is he's objecting to. And I can't tell if the claims are out of control or whether they're true. You know, if there are cost overruns, is it the contract? Is it the subcontractors, the contractors? Is it normal? And lying to Congress. Did he know about it? Did he know about the numbers? Did he not know about it? I do an investigation, and I do it quietly until I get to the point where I can say something. But the chairman says, no, you're attacking the independence of the Federal Reserve. That's not what we're doing. We're doing our job. And I think the sad part about this is no one is above the law, nor should anyone think that they have the right to be above the law, Sean. And I'm curious to those who claim, oh, my gosh, this is a terrible thing, even in our own party. What do you suggest? Are there certain people that you cannot investigate? Are there certain people that we look the other way and throw complaints in the drawer? That's not the America that I grew up in, Sean.
No one is above the law. Remember that? Trump allies are now attacking Powell's independence claims as being above the law. The rhetoric intensifying. Senior counsel Peter Navarro explains why the Trump administration is fighting to end the corporate ownership of single-family homes and excessive interest rates charged by the credit industry.
Well, let's start with the credit card debt. I mean, like the mafia can't charge as much interest rates as these credit card companies do. I mean, let's face it, if their business model is driven by screwing the American people, then that's a business model, a bad business model. They're giving credit cards out to 5-year-olds. It's just, they need to get their house in order, and President Trump's standing up for the American people. With respect to housing, this is such a key issue. Housing is the American dream. The problem with large institutional investors coming in is they crowd the legitimate people out of the market. They come in, all cash deals. They don't have to go through anything that Americans do. President says, no mas, no more. We're going to deal with that. And the other part of that issue, Maria, is they come in, they buy the homes, and they rent them out, and you see rents immediately jump. And there's really good data on how large institutional investors are really driving the higher housing costs. So that problem is going to be taken care of.
Trump is hitting it on all fronts right now. What else we got here? The administration is framing this as fighting corporate greed, but there's a bigger legal bombshell coming. Let's keep going. And we have this. Fed Chair Powell may skip his next scheduled appearance before Congress because of subpoenas served on the central bank. Oh, so he's going to skip, huh? The DOJ probe explains why the stakes are so high. Powell may be avoiding Congress over legal jeopardy. Jerome Powell says the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. Even as Powell maintains his official stance, the political and legal pressure is mounting. Here is Speaker Johnson on the investigation.
With the pending probe of Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and given that inflation actually is looking pretty good, how can the American people trust, and how can markets trust that the Fed is truly independent if it looks like there's a criminal investigation into the Fed chair for not complying with the president's wishes? Just now, the president posted about Powell lowering rates.
Yeah, look, I don't Chairman Powell's an individual. He is not the Fed. He's the chair of the Fed, okay? And it's a serious allegation if he was not truthful in testimony to Congress. That is not a congressional investigation. That's a DOJ investigation. We have to let that play out. I mean, we don't play favorites or favoritism here. The DOJ can't. If there's a credible allegation or concern that someone's lied to Congress, then the DOJ should investigate. I mean, across the board, no matter who it is. No one is immune from that. If he's innocent, as he says, then that will come out in the investigation. And all of us need to reserve judgment and wait for that to happen. Meanwhile, the Fed is continuing to do its work. And, you know, I mentioned their estimate on the economic growth number. I mean, 5.1% GDP. Maybe it's higher than that. We don't know. They're still doing the calculations. But the Fed will continue to operate. There'll be a new chairman come May, and you know, we'll go forward. But I'm going to reserve judgment on it, as I suspect all of you should do as well. I recommend you do as well. Let's see what happens.
Reserve judgment, huh? Congressional leadership is trying to appear neutral, but Trump is not holding back in his attacks. Trump slams Jerome Powell either corrupt or incompetent. Did Jerome Powell lie about the renovation costs? You see, this is the moment of truth for monetary policy in America. Powell can release all the videos he wants, but the writing is on the wall. Trump's promise that interest rates will plummet as soon as his replacement is in is not just rhetoric, it's actually economic policy. The establishment knows that they're about to lose control of the money supply, and they're panicking. The Federal Reserve has operated as an untouchable institution for over a century. Trump is about to change that forever. Powell's criminal investigation, his defensive videos, his refusal to cut rates despite economic data, it all adds up to one conclusion. The deep state's control over your financial future is ending. When Trump replaces Powell, your mortgage rates get cheaper, your savings grow faster, and America wins. The only question is whether you're ready to support dismantling the Fed's stranglehold on our economy. Check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for Trump's economic revolution.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.